What's up, guys? It's, actually, let me pull up the tweet really quick before I start screen sharing. See what we're supposed to be doing. All right, cool. There we go. All right, cool. So we got everyone together here. Talk about this tweet that we have. The instantly add Apple home screen widgets to your React app. The new npx create target command. As you can see, this is a kind of a holiday thing, but the gift that will keep on giving. It's pretty good actually. So in this demonstration, right, we've got some widgets all written in Swift UI here in Xcode. Um, we got some custom pre-build scripts. We got Swift UI previews. Oh man, okay, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. And I'll set up my phone over here because I'm traveling. I'm in the Bay right now, um, so I can just like see questions incoming and field things as they happen. Let's go ahead and get that popping. Okay, cool. I think we're about all set up now. Ready to go. So yeah, let's just give you a little background on this project. Expo Apple targets. So with config plugins, you can continuously maintain the iOS and Android directory, and then React Native is pretty much just like the native target, the main app target. And then there was like small experiments in the past, like running React Native in a share extension, because those had like surprisingly high RAM limits. So that was fine. But over time, Apple has added a ton of targets. This isn't even close to all of them, but there are a ton of targets now. Um, and so we kind of needed a tool which is tangential to React Native that just adds this extra functionality. So I think it's like an important qualifier that this is basically not really React Native. This is just some extra like addition with config plugins that um, you know enables multiple targets. And with that, it means that some of the things that we come to expect with React Native are just like not present. They could be in the future. They could be built on top of this, but currently not there. So it's going to be like multi-platform, like supporting platforms besides iOS. You would basically need to rebuild this entire project, but for every other platform, it's complicated. And actually, that's kind of how React Native started at the beginning. Like Jordan Walk made React iOS, and then Christoph Majira from Software Mansion a while later made React Android, and now we have what we know as React Native today, where there's iOS and Android, and every other platform is just outside of that. But yeah, so we don't have multiple platforms. We don't have writing it in JavaScript. We don't have any of the beautiful like state management that we're used to. But this is all fine because SwiftUI is not terrible. Like yeah, we'll play with it. You can see for yourself how it functions. But you do develop an Xcode, which is kind of a pain. Um, so the way that this project works, actually, let's just go ahead and bootstrap something and try it. So go to my lab, create Expo, bump this font up a bit. Which template do we want to go with? I don't want to use the shad CN one. So we'll do like widget stream dash E. Well, let's just do dash E. So if you're not familiar with Create Expo, you can do dash E, and you can just see like all these awesome examples that we have in here. One that is particularly great. Ooh, there's with RC. It's a good one. We have with Shad CN, and this will just bootstrap like the project that has a lot of web code in it, and a bunch of Shad CN set up already. My Wi-Fi is going to be a little slow. I am at an Airbnb right now, and I noticed that I can't use SSH on it unless I am over a VPN, which means I couldn't like push or pull from GitHub. Wild stuff. Let's see. While we're waiting for this, I can check out some of these comments. Got a lot of people saying hello, which is very very nice. Hey guys. Hey, Imram. Okay, yeah, that's taking a minute. Let's see. I'm afraid to turn off the VPN now. But maybe we go with a no VPN here. All right, I'm gonna turn off the VPN. Stand by. This- From that, okay, yeah. Now, lightning fast. Now, I mean, come on, it's great. Okay, cool. That was slow. Okay, pop in here, and let's do, yeah, Expo. Open up the project. Let's open this on web really quick, just see what we've created here just by bootstrapping. And we've got this, beautiful web UI, all responsive, looks good, feels good. And then I think this also, we should be able to get this kind of working on iOS, but I have it disabled here in the platforms. So can add iOS over here, hit I, restart this, hit I, opening the simulator. And the simulator did get a little slower with iOS 6, or yeah, whatever, like Ecto 16. Open up the simulator, and okay, it looks like we are bundling a DOM component. Okay, and now we have our kind of our Shad CN UI over here on iOS. So we do have like some web, some DOM component. We have an app here. That's fine. Because we're actually just gonna kind of blow all this away and add some Apple targets. So let's see, what should we add first? What kind of widget should we make? I did a finance one before. I think we can stick with some sort of finance app, just because it like plays well into widgets. Like if we look at some of the widgets that we just have on the home screen, you've got like a lot of these full screen interactions. You've got some calendar stuff, which has some data synced. Um, Stock price with some numbers. Let's see, do we have any other good ones? Of course, the simulator isn't going to show us all of our widgets. Why would it? um, Pro tip actually, when you're in the simulator, if you can't get the widgets to show up here, something you can do is just like long press the icon, and you should see the widget thing show up if it's available. So for instance, here, you'll basically install the app icon like this, and then you can run like that, and then find your widget. So let's see over here, we got our DOM component, say ask Copilot, um, add a like stock line and other finance finance related UI. Let's see what it comes up with here. I don't love that it just went stock line finance card, assuming you have these all written for you. Oh man. So implement stock line and finance card. So good. Okay, I'm seeing some questions come in, like what about light mode, dark mode on a widget? Let's I guess get to the widget part. Oh man, okay. So I don't think we're gonna get a lot of help from Copilot today. I don't know I ever expected, but we do have some stock line widget card. Very well. Whatever. Let's clean this up a little. Let's just have it do something like um, some counter, right? So we'll do like index, set index, right? Do some state over here. So basically what I want to do is have something interactive on the page, and then we can synchronize that with our widget. So we can do something like index, and then on press. Actually, it's probably not going to be on press. It's probably going to be like on click, set index, index, x plus one. So now we can, bump that. Wow, good stuff, riveting stuff. Let's create a widget. Let's synchronize some of this data. So to get started, let's commit some of this stuff here. So we have our project, we've created it. This is kind of what you would probably already have from Expo. And now we can use the new tool, right? This is going to be npx create target. And again, this is a side project. This is not like an official Expo thing, even though I am doing it on the official Expo stream. So what this is going to do is install Bacon's Apple targets. in my project. That's going to be the config plugin that we're using. And then we can choose which config plugin we want to add. Varying levels of support for each of these. For instance, like app clip, I just shipped one of these for the first time, but it's got some places where it could be used and improved, like for instance code signing. Actions are actually really great. I have some good actions on my phone that I just built with this target. So this is something that you can use to like inject JavaScript. I use this to build like my React scan extension, but we really want is widget. So we're going to do that. It's going to say it added this Expo target config file, this info plist, and then tells us what we need to run. So now if we go over here, we'll have this new magic targets folder, and then each folder instead of here will be its own multi-target, its own widget. So we can see got like this app intent generated. Here's where the magic happens, this target file. So we've got like some basic icon, this type of widget. We can even change the type over here. We've got some autocomplete in there. It's quite nice. And then that will just change what the config plugin interprets this as. And then we can see some of the other things in here, like Apple Team ID, bundle identifier, colors. So we can get into that a little bit later. Actually, I mean, we can add some of that now, right? So we could set like maybe not primary, but let's set some color like Expo blue. Let's see what kind of blue do we get there. Oh, that is actually very much an Expo type blue from our old style guide. Crazy. And then yeah, we got some entitlements. So the entitlements will synchronize. So, like some of them will synchronize with the main app, which is useful for things like app groups. So app groups is how we are going to communicate from like one side of the bridge to the other. We just pop into here. Let's see, we can go iOS. And then actually getting ahead of ourselves, let's just build the project real quick. So we can run pre-build iOS. This is going to pre-build a project, and it's going to print out some warnings. So first warning is going to be that we're missing the iOS.apple team ID property. This isn't required. It kind of is, but like I was able to make it so that it doesn't kill the build if you don't have it. So we're just gonna get that in Xcode, and then we'll synchronize it back. And then it'll say like the target may require app groups entitlement and number specified. So you're gonna want something like this. And this is, like I said, this is used for communicating across multiple targets or multiple apps even. It's pretty sweet. So let's just go ahead and add this, and I'm just gonna use this example value that we have in here. So we'll just set that up, and then we will register this later inside of Xcode. So our project is done now. We can open it like ZIOS. Instead of here, we're gonna have all of our code. So we have our Apple target, and we can develop inside of this. This uses like some black magic I figured out when building like my own Xcode parser, where you can just link a folder outside of the folder and then say it lives inside of the folder, which means we can develop it inside of Xcode. Yeah, just kind of exploiting that crazy thing where when you move files around, they don't actually synchronize. And then we have all of our iOS code instead of here. So real quick, let's do some setup. Let's see. So here we'll choose our team ID, and then let's use it over here as well. And let's just open the PBX proj file and look for developer team. So this is our team ID under development team. We can just take this. It doesn't really change, so usually you'll memorize it. I just don't want to like go opening up my project right now. But yeah, so we can add it here, Apple Team ID, and now all of that setup should be automated the next time we run pre-build, which we'll do here in a second. I have a feeling. So inside of here, we have a couple of different widget types. So we've got the index file, and this is going to be just denoted by the @main annotation. And then these are going to be all of our widgets. So we have a couple actually here, not just the home screen widget, but we have a control widget. This is going to be the stuff that shows up like on like on your lock screen. You can actually add the control widget. No one does this, but I've been playing with this recently. It's kind of wild. Let's see. So you would add it like where the flashlight and the camera buttons go. And then you can also add them like in here. So this is a control widget I was building the other day. We can click on this and it will launch some sort of URL like Pillar Valley right there. This is actually quite nice. I have one of these set up for Expo. So just on my lock screen, I can like open the Expo dashboard really quickly, and it's pretty great, especially now with hosting, to just quickly see my stats about my apps. And so then the other one we have here is a live activity. Depending on time, we could probably get into live activities. They're quite fun, but they're also very complicated. So let's just go ahead and close these out. for now. Um, let's just delete the widget control. We might use the live activity later. And then we have our widgets. So this is where the actual home screen widget is. And we will try to run the preview here. And the thing about the preview is the preview SwiftUI previews are just like pretty not great, right? They're very similar to fast refresh, but they just fall apart at scale. It's unclear why, it's very opaque. You'll even notice here it's compiling my whole project to run the SwiftUI preview. So it's compiling like React runtime scheduler, double conversion, like everything. So you can imagine that the natural if you think about the natural life cycle of a project, which makes it like we literally start with shad cn, right? That's the life cycle of most people's projects is they will start with a website, they'll find some product market fit, you can build an app, the app starts working, and then you build you're like, okay, I got a great app, I'm going to build a widget, but now you can't even use SwiftUI previews because your app is in here and so you have to develop it in a different project and copy it over. Not great. And that's what we see here. Spoiler alert, this is just pretty much not good. I mean, it actually might work now that I'm saying on stream it won't work, but mostly I can rarely get these things to work. And even if it does start working, we'll make a few changes and then it will just fall apart. So two things you can do here in this case. One is I'm just going to go ahead and close the project. If we go to Apple targets, I wrote down this command that I found on Twitter the other day. It's great. Clear the SwiftUI previews cache. So you can run this to just nuke like all of your global SwiftUI previews, and this could free up some memory to help them work a bit better. But the biggest thing you can do is pre-build without any code inside of your project. So React Native is shipped uncompiled. So you compile it yourself every single time. Not great, and that'll probably change in the next 1 to 2 years, right? But what we can do in the meantime, utilizing config plugins, is because config plugins is agnostic to React Native, we can just remove React Native from the project. And that'll basically make our project act like it has nothing in it. Because even though the JS code is still there, there's no native code linking it, right? The majority of the complexity of our app lives in the JavaScript code, which is actually, gets into this other rabbit hole about how like, if we did pre-build React Native, we could make native iOS apps that built like super complicated ones that just build like instantly. Anyway, so I'm going to run this command. Continue with uncommitted changes. Yes. Clearing the iOS directory. And you can notice that just pre-builds super fast, right? Because the CocoaPods is usually the slow part. No CocoaPods in here. Reopen this. And now our project should be very minimal. So if we open up the widgets file right here and we try to run this, we should get it running pretty quickly. Again, this is a project with no code in it. So this is pretty much as close to as quick as you can get. Maybe one thing we can, and there it is. So now we got our widget and we can open it and inspect it right here. And we have like the various controls over it. So I think I haven't been tracking the questions too much. Let's see, but I did see something about like light mode, dark mode. So you got something in here. One cool thing about iOS is generally you'll use these built-in colors that they have. Um, like dot system background and such. And these colors are dynamic by default. So if we go into, and actually when you have this blank template, and the blank template again is just for testing, it's not like for working at some sort of large scale. Often if you have a bunch of config plugins and you want to use the blank template, you'll want like an app.config.js so that you can remove all of the targets except for like one, so that you don't have like collisions. But yeah, anyways, so now that it's in here though, we can pre-build clean pretty quickly and very consistently. So we've got Expo Blue in here. Let's see, did that color actually generate? Yeah, it did. So we got the Expo Blue color, which is generated, I think, if I'm not mistaken, which I shouldn't be because I wrote it. Yeah, we have these dynamic colors. So we can do light and dark. So we can do like Expo Blue. Let's see, yeah, light and dark. Nope, come on, give us something neat. Let's just go like white. Let's do pre-build npx expo pre-build dash dash template node modules at bacons apple targets. Oh man, yeah, there's a lot to cover here in this, but baby steps, baby steps. All right, so now we just rerun pre-build and we should see this new updated color. So when we go and reference this color, Expo Blue, In dark mode, it will use this, and then every other mode, light mode, it will use this color blue. Which you can think of as kind of like media queries, but they work at build time. Um, so yeah. Anyways, so we can play with all the different simulator controls over here. Let's talk about the structure of a widget real quick, and you guys can gauge how little I know about widgets. So first of all, we have this app intent timeline provider. So app intent is kind of a magic custom struct inside of SwiftUI. When you're working with targets, there's going to be a lot of stuff with app intents, and honestly, they're a bit of a headache. The timeline provider is going to indicate how the app intent should update. So think of this as like how data is passed around. Timeline provider is when we update this app intent. So first of all, we have this placeholder structure. So this is going to, we're going to return a simple entry. This is going to be our data type. And then, yeah, we'll just have some placeholders. So that's where this data is coming from, this time to 920 or whatever. And then we're going to have this snapshot. Don't actually remember that is. I usually format it like this, I think. Then we got our timeline provider here. Now this is going to be where some of the magic happens. This is the timeline provider is going to indicate when the data should update, right? So over here, we're going to notice that we have this timeline that we return. I think there's also like a completion function that we can use. But anyways, oh, I see. So there used to be a completion function. Now we got the async. So you can do like async and await in Swift. Crazy stuff. So here we can return a timeline and we can say like when we should update the timeline and like some new data entries. So I think, yeah, in this particular case, we are indicating like an array of timelines, or sorry, an array of datas that we should run over time. The gist is this is our placeholder data for what shows up here, and this helps indicate when we can update the data. So like in the background or the foreground, and then we can also update data with a native module, which just forces everything to update when the app is in the foreground. Let's see, then what else we got? Here is our actual SwiftUI view. This is going to render in the widget. You can make an Expo module if you wanted to reuse this view inside of your React Native code, where you just re-export this. Haven't tried that yet, but it seems pretty cool. And then, yeah, we've got some config about our widget. This is going to be the kind, and then some configuration. And then we also have things like the container background. So here we're using fill, but I guess we could also use that Expo blue. Let's see. Shape style. Is that shape style? Let's see. Gotcha. Okay. Fill dot secondary. Yeah, shape style. Okay. Can never really get the different styles right. And then, yeah, we have some extra configuration. And then down here, we define our preview. So here, these are going to be the values which show up right here. So we've got these come from our timeline provider. And then we can set a new preview, for instance, which is like system medium. And now we should see system medium, I think, show up in here somewhere. Yeah, right there. And then we can see like the different indications. So it's very similar to like Radon IDE by Software Mansion. Now I'm going to check out the questions here real quick. Let's see what we got. I'm just on YouTube. Let's see. Countdown timer, weather. Yeah, maybe. I mean, we are 24 minutes in and we're just covering the basics. So yeah, we'll see how far some AI can get us, to be honest. Stable, is it stable? Depends on what you, I mean, like, okay, the elements here, when I think about like stability, are going to be, if you think from like a technical perspective, we've got Expo stable, config plugin stable, and this config plugin which links some code using like an unstable PBX proj parser, and then some other elements like the Expo targets format. The technology is sound. I've shipped it to production. I've seen a few other people have shipped it to production. Some like really great examples actually, by people who are probably at this point more qualified to talk about it than I am. But I would say the part that is the least stable is, like you can clearly see a vector between like where this is now and where this could be, like all the features we could add. And in order to get there, we might make some breaking API changes. Those would be the unstable parts, but you can always get around that by just pinning the version. Let's see if we've got, I'm here on the Expo profile. Let's see. Let's go to bacon breaks. Actually, you know what? Let's not do that. But there are some good widgets out there. Um, is widgets on home screen is possible to fetch in the background, like socket emit, send HTTP requests from the server. Yeah, so you can like do some background data fetching. Um, it's pretty complicated though, just by nature of background data fetching being complicated. But there is the ability to like set up the timeline. If we look at what's a good example? I think I have like a widget example that I built, or sorry, stock widget. The stock widget example. This one that I'm about to show you is open source, so I'm on GitHub. So in here we have, let's see. Yeah, so here we have get timeline with the completion handler instead of the async. Um, so we can specify like when we want it to run and update. And then inside of our load data from shared source, here we can do one of two things. One is we could do some networking. So we could do some asynchronous data fetching. The other is we could continue to read user defaults. This is the main way that you're going to do a lot of data fetching is you're going to read shared values that are persisted locally and shared within your app using the app group. Um, if you do the user defaults method, one thing you could do, you could try, I haven't tried it, so I'm not entirely sure, but you could use Expo background fetch, which admittedly is pretty tricky just to debug just by nature of background stuff being hard. But you can set up a background task, you can do some data fetching, and presumably you can cache and write some NS user defaults from here. Um, and then you've got like app background tasks running in JavaScript, and then you've got some background tasks running in the widget. And then when the background tasks in the JavaScript persist data, then the disconnected background tasks in the widget will, constantly just be reading the widget data, seeing if anything is persisted, pull it in and populate. So this is probably this one's definitely going to be like leveraging the best parts of Expo, but the just going for it and re-implementing data fetching here in Swift might also be like a reasonable approach. Um, so let's see, what other questions do we have? I go on a tangent for everything. We got Frank here. Hey, Frank. Let's see, got some lovely compliments in here. You guys are always so kind. Um, when we're on camera. Then we've got, is it possible for widgets on the iOS home? Oh wait, I already read that one. GPT iOS home screen widgets have strict limitations on background tasks, and they cannot constantly fetch data every 2 to 3 minutes, while you can use background fetch for limited updates. Yeah, so an important qualifier here is one thing that I just forget to mention. We have very little control over a lot of this. Like Apple just has kind of some arbitrary rules around like when things update. And I say arbitrary, but actually they are based on like data, like performance. Like you don't want to install a widget and then have it just like constantly running like some craziness on your home screen and then like killing your battery, because then they would probably get like all the blame for that. Um, so yeah, anything in the background, anything when your app is terminated, anything like just imagine that it's very inconsistent and that you have very little like control over that. And that's just by way of how Apple and Google like implement these tools. Um, you could read in depth about them for days, or you could ask GPT. It'll actually tell you pretty quickly. Um, yeah, continuous server pings are not feasible. Thanks, Stark Prod. That is a good point. Um, let's see. Yeah, I need to change the Xcode data, the data on Xcode. Yes, you do. Any plans to integrate with Android? No, not right now. Again, this is like just a side project that I built because I have an iPhone and I wanted to add these. Um, I highly recommend anyone in the community who has similar, like who also wants to see Android widgets to build their own version of Apple targets. And then maybe in the future, there'll be another pass where we combine the two efforts. But right now, I just like, I mean, yeah, it's a lot to cover like every possible type of target. And then what about live activities missing in Apple targets? No, it's not. Well, not inside of this one, but when you generate a widget, we've got a live activity right here. This will actually run. Live activities are kind of crazy to develop because it's like all these various different states. I mean, something that also is like this is very different to an app, right? I mean, it's okay, it didn't even run. This is very different to an app because it's like you're just kind of saying like, if this, do this, if this, do this, if this, do this. It's very similar to like how React Native Screens exposes the UI view controller, where it's like you can do header left, you can do header right, but when you want to start doing custom stuff, you have to like kind of blow it all away and do everything yourself. And that's just by nature of like this very heavy-handed UI. Looks good, feels great, but like you know, I would I see some, like, memes about this sometimes where people, like, have, like, some concept design for a live activity, and then they'll, like, have UI where the camera should be, right? Because it's like they forget that there is very little control over the actual UI visual, like, representation here. So in this case, it's like in the leading space, you could do, like, maybe a small icon, or you could do the letter L. It's like compact space, you could do, like, small icon or maybe the letter T, and then maybe an emoji. Like, you have very, very limited space in here. Um, okay, let's see. All right. Well, I think that answers a bunch of the questions. We can come back to them here in a minute, but let's just start writing some code. I'm getting itchy. I wanna write something. Um, Although at this point, I actually think like just by nature of how little time we have, probably would be better to walk through some code. Let's put ourselves into focus mode. Actually, let's put ourselves into coding mode. Yeah, that's cool. Um, okay. We've walked over this. I don't think it's like actually super helpful if I also write the code just by nature of what we've done so far. So I'm going to swing back over to that stock widget example that we had and um, yeah, just walk through some like existing code. I think that would probably like play out better. Just as much as I love live coding for people and being like, hey, did you know I can write software? I think it's probably better if we try to like save some time here. So here's another example that I have. Again, this one is on GitHub. It's an Expo Router project, very similar in structure to what we had before, where we have um, this layout, and then we have an index route, and then we have this homepage, which is a DOM component, right? So inside of this DOM component, we have some stock data, which updates. All of this is just like web code, works fine. One thing that's kind of neat about the stock data is that we have this update widget native action, which we're passing down through the data. So when our web data updates, then we call a function, which then sends it bubbles it all the way up to our index route here. And then on our index route, we will be setting data. So I mentioned earlier that we have that NS user defaults API that we use to interact between iOS and Android. Um, and then we use an app group. One thing that I found, which is a little bit easier, was to add a native module to my config plugin, which is kind of funny because it's like the inverse of adding a config plugin to a native module. But here, I've added this extension storage native module. It's iOS only. It has some fallbacks, so it won't fail if you call it on like web or Android. Um, and it's very simple, right? We have a reload widget function, which we can call to just globally reload the widgets. We can also reload them by name. That's going to be that kind value that we saw earlier. So instead of here, you get this kind portfolio widget. That's where the name would go. I think actually it might be the timeline provider. Doesn't matter. There's only so many hard-coded strings in there. And then we've got this set function where we can set like a number, an array, a string, some data. And if we set it to null, then we'll remove the value. So this just gives us like enough to do some basic updates. So we can instantiate some storage. We'll set what the app group name is. I would love to automate this in the API because it can be confusing to update. And then over here, we're going to say set the storage value, current value for this. What do we got there? A number. Then we got this daily change, percentage amount, history amount, all the values that are changing. And then also I've set into my DOM components. These are kind of nice. Text interaction, turn it off. Folder refresh, turn it on, and force dark mode on. You can do some really nice things with DOM components actually. So let's pop open the project. We had it open. Let's see if we can even run it. Let's try running this real quick. We might not be able to. Oh, no, we can. Okay, cool. No React Native in there. Should just boot up quickly. All right, perfect. So here's our stock widget example that we have. We can see it in small, medium, and then large sizes. And then we can see some of the like mock data being pulled in here. We can also like toggle it around. So let's talk a little bit about how we actually fetched this data and pulled it in. Inside of timeline provider, we've got our placeholder data, some default data. the snapshot, some more data, and then like the completion. So this can be asynchronous. And then the timeline, we just say after 15 minutes, we will update it in the background. And what update it in the background means is not fetch the data through React Native. It just means we will call this load data from shared store. And this is where we're going to read the user defaults. So if I actually wanted this to update, I would have to open the app and then it will update. And then in the background, it will be able to like read the data again. I can also set up some background updates, or I can re-implement my data fetching instead of here. Um, None of the options are really honestly that attractive, but room for improvement, lots of room for innovation here. We can, yeah. um, yeah, this is a gnarly problem, but it makes for really, really nice feeling and very native apps. So, you know, worth it. And then also this entire thing, for the most part, I was able to just get it kind of working with some system prompts, like some AI prompts. So, not bad. Um, Another thing which is pretty gnarly is going to be actually how you decode JSON data. So, for instance, we wrote this history data object to our NS user defaults, history data. And if we look at history data, it's going to be an array of values with a timestamp, which is going to be a date string and value. So if we look in here, yeah, let's find timestamp. So we're going to use like two ISO string. The thing is like, even though it's ISO format, it's a pretty standard value. That is not the default way that Swift is going to decode strings and expect strings to like appear. So here we've got a custom date formatter where we say format with these particular options, date, time, and fractional seconds. And then we have even further a custom date decoding strategy where we say, if we go to attempt to decode like a date value from a string, use our custom formatter so that everything parses. If you don't do this correctly, then it throws an error, which we then catch over here and we print out. I'll just tell you now, there's going to be a lot of this when you develop, like looking for the errors and making sure that the values line up. Um, this is ripe for some sort of abstraction, like some way where I can say my data can always be processed from like a JavaScript object into like get some Swift JSON. Ooh, let's see, and then yeah, here's some of our default data. I think that about covers what we're doing here. So yeah, let's try building some of this and playing with it. Let's build it onto 16, I guess. Stock widget. And again, none of this will build as is because we're using a blank template. We can tell that we're using a blank template because SwiftUI previews works. So let's go ahead and blow all this away. And then we'll just do prebuild -p iOS -- clean. And then run that. Close Xcode. See what some of these questions are. We'll wait for CocoaPods to install. Da, 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 da. If you guys have issues or error reports, I would recommend opening them like on GitHub or something. The YouTube comment section is going to be a tricky one for me too. Well, A, read, but then B, repro from. Let's see. So yeah, we've got the project running here. So we will build this on iOS, and I've been trying to delay the actual building of a React Native project for as long as I could, but that time has come. So we will start up the dev server here in the CLI, npx expo start. All right, we actually have another one running. Let's close that one down. Okay, we got that. Looks like there's some updates I need to make. Okay, how are we doing over here on Xcode? Looks like we have some sort of issue. Oh man, okay, I don't love this error message. It's really upsetting. If you guys have ever seen this one, oh, I think it just went away. But the error message that we just got there comes from CodeGen. And so it can happen if you run yarn or like some sort of npm install while after you've run pod install. So if you ever see like that stat file cache not clear, run pod install again. That should resolve the issue. Um, yeah, kind of unfortunate. Um, Hi from Iran. Hello. Let's go. Um, Been using this in my widgets for about a year in production. Hope Expo SDK updates don't break it in the future. Well, yeah, me too. I do too. Okay, I can like there hasn't been too many breaking changes to Apple targets. Again, this isn't like an Expo official thing, so it doesn't follow the same like the same rule structure. But I did just have what could potentially be a breaking change where we generate the I generate the bundle identifier based on the name of the project, which came previously from like the widget and then the display name. But that meant you couldn't use like spaces or like emojis or anything like interesting in your name. So I just pushed a change in 0.2.0, which enables you to actually set any sort of expressive name. But as a side effect of that, it does mean that the generated bundle identifier might have changed. You can get around this by pinning the bundle identifier, just defining bundle ID in your Expo target. Um, yeah, so just wait, failed with like no failure. What? Okay, let's try that one more time. Oh, Xcode. This is I will like this building custom targets is not for the faint of heart. I mean, we're 42 minutes in and we are building a product. Like this is and yeah, you will be working with Xcode and crazy Xcode errors. So just know what you're in for. This is not the default Expo experience of like build and ship fast and get into the hands of users and make high quality app. This is like really itching for that extra 10%, which yeah, we want to make possible in Expo. And then I think in the future, we will just make this like really great. For example, app clips are incredible. It would be awesome if we could just have app clips on by default for Expo apps. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I just rebuilt this whole project. Now it's like clears its own cache somehow. Like doesn't have cache hits. Silly, silly app. Um, yeah, I would love to work on iOS caching in the future. I saw someone mention here that they would like to see live activities. Honestly, I think that could probably be a stream in and of itself. Probably one that is more focused. I mean, yeah, there's a lot to cover here. Um, and we didn't even cover a lot of the fundamentals. So, for instance, we have generated entitlements files. You don't want to update these manually. We have an info p list not generated. You can update this manually. Um, Generally, you don't need to update the info p list too much after the generation. There's just weird things like ns point extension point identifier. Yeah, so we just built it again and it totally works. Okay, great. Launching the widget now. Oh, man, speaking of launches, did you guys see the boom plane fly today? That was so awesome. It's like going, oh man, I love planes. I love aviation. Um, All right, just booting this up. Okay, so by the way, the slowness here is LLDB connecting. So that is Xcode's debugger connecting to the device. So you may notice that that slowness happens more when you build from Xcode and not from Expo Run because we don't connect the LLDB. So here is our app with the DOM component inside of it. We got some stock data just updating it randomly. Um, Kind of looks like the DeepSeek situation right here. And then if we close this, it'll be like, hey, where's our widget? We need to add the widget. You can do two things. One, you can come up here and you can build your widget individually, but your mileage may vary. Another is that trick from earlier, right? We go into here and we can do this. This is actually a huge save because before this was very difficult. So our widget was actually built all along, right? So we can go like the larger size. And then if we open this up and we like reload or something, we should see it update right like that. So these updates are happening because we are force reloading the data fetching. So inside of here, we call extension storage.reload widget that force reloads the data. So that's not abiding by the timeline provider, which says every 15 minutes, just update anyways. So right there, we saw it actually did just update, but I think these updates It's hard to say, but these updates might just be because the JavaScript is running in the background, um, or it could be queued updates that are just coming in late. Again, very difficult to actually make sense of. It's more complex than I thought. Yes, unfortunately, this is quite hard. It's hard even I like wrote the system, so very difficult. This is again like this is not the common Expo code. Like you can build a whole app with Expo, super easy, send it to the store. This is like for that last, like this is for the make your app the best that it can possibly be. And I highly recommend giving it a try, to be honest. Um, okay, so we have some data in here. I mean, I'm getting a lot of questions. They're all in like different directions. So I'm thinking instead of staying focused, what if we just keep with this distracted pattern and then I show you guys some live activities as well. Live activities also kind of wild, but even crazier. If you thought this was wild, live activities go even harder. But they're very cool. I thought live activities were like notifications, but they're actually just more like widgets. So instead of Apple targets, we can go to apps, and then we have live activities demo. And here's where you can find the source code for a live activity. So one thing that you're going to need that is definitely complicates this is you're going to need a custom local module to interact with it. And that's because you can't interact, as far as I know, over NS user defaults. You do need to use an actual app intent. So instead of here, we've got our widget live activity. Let's try just copying this um, over to here. New file on it. Actually, okay, we don't even need to do that because with this new system, another thing I forgot to mention is that this only works with Xcode 16 um, for reasons that are complex to get into. I want to stay focused here. So we can add live activity dot Swift, drop this file in, and if we save it, it will just show up here in Xcode automatically. That's a new Xcode 16 feature, which is sweet. So there's going to be two things in here that you really want to pay attention to. The first one, well, let's get our live activity and let's add that to the index. So we will just register this as existing. The first one is going to be the attributes. So this is our data pattern here, activity attributes. This needs to be available to both the main target and to the sub target. There's a couple ways to do that. One is with a shared folder where and I actually have a convention for that. If you create a folder in here called underscore shared, you can move this into a file there, and then this code will be available in both locations. Still kind of wonky and a little buggy. So there's a hack that we can use to get around that. And the hack is to literally just copy it and paste it in both locations. And then Xcode just knows how to like diff those and make sense of it. So if we open up our project here, we go back to stock widget activity. We can do npx create expo module dash dash local. And then this is going to create a custom native module for our main activity. And we can say like, actually, let's just see what's the one in here called. We'll try to keep these as similar as possible. Expo live activity. Okay. Expo live activity. Save all these, run that, and now we will have this modules folder in here with a custom native module. So right off the get, like we can just delete the Android one, right? We're not supporting that right now. We also can delete the web part. We're not supporting that either. This is iOS only, and this is how we add some native code to our main target. Essentially, we have a lot of code in here, and then we're also going to have some Swift code. Don't need really any of it. So I mean, the strategy here, like what we're going to do is we want from our native app, our main app, to call some native bindings which update our live activity attributes, and that's just going to require some custom native code. I don't think there's like a good way to abstract over it. If someone knows, I highly recommend I highly recommend. Please tell me if you know, and we can try to work that in here. That would make this a lot easier. So yeah, we go into here. We can check out our live activity. Nothing in the pod spec, just a single file. And the thing is, yeah, we have this widget activities just copied identically across both. Apple, like when they compile this, the symbols match. Didn't need to do that hand gesture. The symbols match, and then we are able to update across our live activity. And then we have some functions in here, such as our activities available, start activity. So here's where we call the custom widget attributes type. And we are going to just request that it runs. We can update the activity and we can end the activity. And then we have some like event emitters in here. So let's just copy this. It's kind of like the shad cn of native modules. So you'll copy it and we will paste it. Let's delete this view. We don't need it. And then we will get our JS file. I always just like to do these super minimal, like just only the TypeScript bindings and return the native module. And it's like, if I want some custom code, just put that on the native side because Expo modules are, pretty clean. So like we do that, right? We can just delete the whole source folder. What else do we need? Let's make sure widget attributes are the same. I think they are because we just copied it from the other place. Yeah, so this must be identical to this. If you change this and you add some state here, you must change it over here. Very important. Let's do pod install to synchronize our local module with our main target. Oh no, an error occurred. Okay, this error is actually quite annoying. This is because the version of CocoaPods that I'm on does not work with the version of Xcode, like the latest version of Xcode. Way that we get around this, name of the game is just staying unblocked, right? Just staying alive here. This is, as complicated as it gets, I will tell you that first. Object version 70 inside of our PBX project, let's set that to something like 50, right? Can run pod install and it will save. This will revert when we go back to Xcode 16 and update values. It will change this back to object version 70. Not great. I think what we need there is just like a CocoaPods update to support version 70. There might already be one already, but I could be wrong here. Yeah, so from last week, no, they just tell you to revert it. So this is how you can revert it from like Xcode. All right, working on the forefront, baby. I mean, I had set up an app clip and I was trying to show someone the other day at a party. I tried to show like 4 or 5 people and it just didn't work because no one was on iOS 18. So like unique problem to have for React Native because I think iOS 15 is what we support by minimum. Anyway, so we've got our project in here. We've got our live activity. And I think we could probably just build it now. We will see. Hopefully I didn't get anything wrong because I really have no time to spare. While we're waiting for this, let's find how we actually used the target and we will leverage it inside of our new app. Okay, so here we've got the usage of live activities. So let's pull this in here somehow. Let's say live activities. And then, yeah, we can do on start, update, and end activity. So just make this like its own component to be totally H. Okay, so all this looks to have built correctly, and we will find out if the live activity works here in a second. What is nice is that, is like, at this point, we have all the native code theoretically, so we could potentially just figure this out with fast refresh. So yes, call this like live activity demo, this component here. So this is just gonna be a view with some text to start, update, and end the activity. And then let's just slap this in kind of next to our DOM component. Let's see, can we see that anywhere? Probably not, it's probably floating under the content. Try updating, okay, there it is. So we got our live activity, start, update. Okay, let's clean this up a little bit more. Stage area view, sure. Style flex 1. Okay, so start, update, end. Fingers crossed, let's see what we get. Start. Didn't work, dang it. Okay. Fingers crossed never works. I don't know why I keep trying to get it to work. Let's debug what went wrong. So to debug this, we can go into here, development pods, and then check out Expo live activities. There's this. And because we built this and it's currently running, we can check when we call the start. So we'll set a breakpoint in here and we'll say start. And it does look like it actually pinged the breakpoint. So we can see the name starting. Actually, what are some, maybe the warning is just super obvious. Okay, no, it's not. It's just like a length warning. Okay, actually, let's see if we get an error when we start it. Yeah, we do get an error. Okay. Okay, here's the error. And also the error just showed up here too. So we didn't need to do those breakpointing. No such process found. No such process found. No such process. No such process found. My gut tells me that the problem is maybe we need to recompile the widget. I get the sense that maybe this widget attributes isn't available, so it doesn't know to start it. So we'll recompile that. And while we do, we will look at our targets over here and see if there's anything we missed. Okay. No, not that one. No, not that. Okay. See if we've got any suggestions from in here. Okay. App intent. You made it further than I expected. We'll make it all the way. Okay, configuration app intent. Maybe I'm missing some config. I think so. Yeah, I think we have everything here. It's very cryptic. Add NS supports live activities to the info P list. Maybe we don't need that over here. That is a good point, though. Maybe we are. I'm thinking maybe. Oh, there it is. You were right. Oh, where's the guy? Milan? Okay, well, yeah. Mandela, yeah, you were right. There it is. Oh man. Okay, I should code on stream more often. You guys rock. This is oh, sweet. Okay, well, we will just quickly throw that into the main info P list. Okay, well, man, I wish I could just write code into here. NS. Where is it? Live activities. Okay, I'm just gonna open as source code. And then let's do one of these bad boys. We paste, supports live activities, true. Okay, let's rebuild the main app. Clever guy. Oh man. Okay, wait. There's got to be a way. So this is, this is the main thing with Apple targets. Is like there's a lot to think about. So it's like, how can we automate this with Apple targets? Big term. Something failed. Okay. A lot to think about. And so, oh, and then Xcode just Xcode quit. Okay, I bet that's because maybe there was a blank space inside of the info P list, and then it didn't know how to sanitize itself. This is why you got to use. I shouldn't have tried to be quick about it. I should have tried to just stick with config plugins. Oh wait, is this not even okay? It is updating. Open as property list. Okay, it can't even parse itself anymore. One of these is an invalid value. There it is. Key. Okay. String. It's been around for like 20 years. Maybe they figure out to sanitize the value. Okay. All right. Okay. So I think this will work now. Do start. There it is. We got our live activity. All right. Perfect. So now you see it dismisses into here. We can long press this. We get leading, trailing, bottom. We can click this to open and we can update. So this will change the emoji. So we should see an emoji change in here. Let's see, update the activity again. Okay, there we go. So we got a lightning bolt and then we can end the activity. And now when we close it, it doesn't go into the live activity. I think there's a little bit more here that we can do. I never know how to get to the actual home screen here. Yeah, so we can see it up here as well, this hello part. Um, and we can, yeah, do like allow always. So you see there's just lots of different states here that you need to configure for your live activity. So the way that we'll do that is we'll come into here and then we can, change these. So instead of L, make this B or something, and then we got to recompile all this to get it working again. It's a bit of a, yeah, it's tricky. I mean, yeah, so now we get B, right? So you definitely got to play it by ear with this one. Hard to get like a nice tight feedback loop in there, but for actually showing it and presenting it, we can do all that here with fast refresh. Here, I gesture to a lot of text on the screen. Let's just close some of this down, move this over here. So yeah, we are showing some things, but then for instance, when we update it, we can change that. So we have our list of emojis here. We can change it to just maybe not even emoji. I don't know. Let's change this to the name of the guy who totally came in clutch just now. We can update it to that. Let's see, new launch. There we go. um, yeah, perfect. So it is nice once you get it set up and we can just do some working in React Native when we're back in fast refresh world where everything is quick and snappy. But to get to this world, there's a lot of native code. I mean, technically, like this is maybe a 1 day, 2 day endeavor where you set up your Swift code and then you don't really have to touch it for a while. But then, yeah, you can still. I mean, you could send this code over the air. You can change that. It's not bad. All right, let's go to the comments. Let's see what else people are saying over here. Any good? Anything good? I mean, there's lots of good stuff here. Authorization error. Yeah, I mean, it would have been nice if they just said the NS supports live activities. I mean, we should. What's a good way to enforce this? Honestly, yeah, I think like we should just make a note here. Like, we have that one pre-build warning that says like you need app groups. Like, add pre-build warning about this in the main info.p list. I mean, we could technically inject it automatically, but then you would have to remember to pull it out when you're only doing widgets and you're not supporting live activities. So that would be kind of a pain. Goofy, man, goofy. Let's see, what else we got here? I mean, we're coming up on time. So if anyone has any more questions, I would recommend asking them now. This was definitely a hectic one. There's a lot going, but in just 1 quick hour, you can kind of get up to running with a widget in a live activity. And yeah, there's just like a ton of interesting code inside of this Apple Targets. I mean, like, yeah, if you get stuck, there's a lot of things in here that you can refer to. Coming up soon, you'll be able to refer to that live activity factoid. Let's see, we have some apps in here with some demos that you can refer to. So you have a widget, we got an app clip demo. I'd probably refer to Pillar Valley for a better app clip demo because that's one that I actually shipped end to end. Let's see. And then inside of the actual, like this larger app demo, I do have an action example. Actually, I have a lot of examples, but the action one is pretty good. So actions are great because this is like, you could just add, I actually write some of these just custom for myself. And you can probably do this with shortcuts, but I like using actions. So you can add an option like here that will just inject some JavaScript on your website. So in this case, we've got the action.swift file. And then I think, yeah, we have the assets, and then I have this index.js. This is a big boy. So this is like what I use to do inspect element on my phone. So you'll have this like class in this extension, this crazy custom JavaScript. Actually funny because this is very much kind of like how React Native works, but it's just built into iOS. Um, Eventually React Native will just be an upstream feature of iOS. I mean, it's gonna happen. But yeah, here we can just like inject some JavaScript in our page. So I load Aruda, and then this is just like this inline script for Aruda, which can inspect element on the page. Pretty nice, fun little pro tip. Gives you the ability to just see like what websites are built with while you're on your iPhone. And yeah, lots of other things that you can do in here. You can do notification service content. There are like individual config plugins that people have built that do things like notifications content, notification service providers. Like for instance, one signal comes to mind. In a lot of cases, I would just recommend using those. The original purpose of this Apple Targets thing was to demonstrate this idea of linking native code outside of the iOS directory so that you could just write code like verbatim in Xcode. I mean, you're seeing here, there's all these problems that we're running into, and we're just literally developing in Xcode. There's very few things which are like Expo specific, and it's still very difficult. So I wanted like as a baseline for you to be able to do that. And then um, yeah, people can build on top of it. They can build things. They can like you can fork Expo Alpha targets, copy parts of this if you want. Um, we'll continue. I'll just continue to like add on to this. Again, I added the create targets thing like over the holiday season. Um, so like there's it's definitely a holiday project. But yeah, if there are more intentful versions or someone like just went out of the way to make like a really good share extension, then that's probably going to be like I would definitely try taking that out. Um, Let's see, what else we got? A great example is I think there is like a Expo config plugin for Safari extensions, which actually supports bundling Expo Web and putting it inside of the project. This one doesn't do that, right? This is just like, here's the raw code and bindings that you require. So as a primitive, it exists, and then people can like leverage that primitive to build more opinionated Safari extensions. Let's see, what else we got here? Yeah, live activities do not exist on Android. I think that they may be rumored to be in the next Android version. Um, and then app clips, they have instant apps, but it's more for games. I haven't tried it. Again, like, I mean, this exists just because I'm very passionate about native development and I have an iPhone and I want to like do cool things for, myself. Um, like I have a lot of these just built and then like I just use them on my phone. And so you would definitely need to be like that same level of enthusiastic about like your particular type of Android device. So like, I would imagine that even when you make something like this for Android, it would only apply to like a subset of the vendors. Like they probably don't all implement them the same way. Um, have you made Apple Watch companion app with this package? I personally haven't. I don't have an Apple Watch. I mean, I had an Apple Watch. I stopped using it because it dies every day, and one day you just stop putting it on. But technically, you can set up an Apple Watch in here. Again, I haven't tried it though. But I mean, I tried it this one time that we're looking at here. Like, I don't even think I have the Apple Watch devices on here. Let's see. We could do it, and this could be like, actually, I don't know, man, probably shouldn't do it. Yeah, so I did get it running one time and I had it working. You just build the widget with like Swift UI views. I mean, the watch buttons definitely look and feel very different to iOS buttons, so probably just makes sense to drop something small like that. And then I actually don't know how the data fetching would work. Presumably there's some synchronization. I can't imagine it's over app groups. Maybe it is. Maybe you use app groups so then you could use extension storage, but probably it's going to be a little different. And then I did see there were some PRs in here to add like different watch widget types. But I'm not like too certain what makes watch widget different to watch. Um, so yeah, the watch stuff is definitely very cryptic to me. I mean, you can just see where like my involvement in the Apple ecosystem falls off, like, and it reflects here in the code. Um, but yeah, I mean, give it a try. Looks like the keyboard extension is also like not in here, but you can add it. It's not too crazy. Yeah, don't be afraid to fork any of this. Don't be afraid to like get your hands dirty with this stuff. Um, all the very Expo specific domain knowledge, I think, is actually pretty much packaged up really nicely in this config plugin. And a lot of the problems that we were running into here were not Expo specific or React Native specific, even. They were, I mean, outside of the build times. Outside of that, everything else was just related to like direct iOS development. So you're gonna feel that kind of no matter how you built your app. Um, so yeah, don't think it's like off the table or that you can't add something like this. Um, all right. Yeah, I think that's it. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. I'm Bacon Bricks on Twitter or X. So if you have questions, comments, anything you want to add, feel free to do it there. This is Expo Apple Targets. The source code for this stream, like what we just looked at, is actually already published. I think it's called like stock widget. Let's see. Stock widget example. So you can find it here, Expo stock widget example. And yeah, take care, guys. Stop screen sharing here.